This news story was produced by Cogeco North Bay News. To watch the full newscast, tune into channels 12 or 700 live at 5:30 p.m. Monday to Friday.
86-year-old Ernie Gilmet passed away at the North Bay Regional Health Center about 10 days ago. This was very bad news to Ernie's good friend Ricardo Bouchoun. They were friends with a difference. Neither could hear and both struggled to survive. Bouchoun and Gilmet get help from interpreters at the Canadian Hearing Society, but they're on strike, so the service has been limited. Bouchoun, through an interpreter, explained the situation this way.
He was very overwhelmed by trying to communicate with the nurses and the doctors without an interpreter there all the time. So it was really difficult to try and figure out his serious medical conditions. An interpreter is limited on the amount of time that she was available to come in, so that left Ernest without an interpreter a lot. And it was difficult for him to communicate about medication and things with his nurses and doctors, and we tried to support him as a deaf community as best we could.
Bouchoun said it would be like someone going to a foreign country without being able to speak the language.
Maybe you were in India, who knows where you were, and they had to bring you to the hospital, and you had to try and communicate with the nurses and the doctors just through hand gestures. They didn't speak English, you didn't speak their language. Imagine how you would communicate about what they were going to do to you. And then they're sticking you with needles and you have no idea what they're putting in or taking out. Imagine how paranoid and how worried you would be about what was going to happen to you.
But what about writing down your concerns so the doctors and nurses could see that?
He didn't understand English really well. He's an 86-year-old man, and English is very much his second language. His first language is sign language, and that communication in his first language wasn't provided for him. The hospital would call an interpreter, but they did not do that enough. So they did provide an interpreter once in a while, and the deaf community tried to get one there more often, but the hospital didn't call for one every time one was needed.
We did get an email from the health center's communications manager, Kim McElroy. She said that because of privacy concerns, they can't discuss the specifics of Gilmet's case. And she says, and I'm quoting, "As per our accessibility policy, the health center and its patients have access to interpreters. Where the translation or interpreter services are necessary, including sign language, access to such services can be requested. The length of time they are with a patient is based on the patient's circumstances." As for the future, what does Ricardo want?
We are trying to advocate for the importance of communication at the hospital. So it's important that the hospital looks back on everything that happened with Ernest and realizes that interpreting services are an essential service. Rather than trying their best to communicate and writing back and forth, most deaf people are not going to understand when it has to do with medical terminology, and understanding is really important. So we hope that the hospital, as we continue this story, will understand that.
If you are interested in watching Cogeco North Bay News, you can become a subscriber by calling 1-800-267-9000.